What's up, Spellsingers? My name is Garion John Wells.
I'm Drew Flitton.
And I'm Cory Janibagian.
And this is Untap
Upkeep.
Drink.
Beer up.
Welcome back, guys. We're back with another episode of Untap Upkeep Drink, and this time we're diving deep into Commander 18.
Yeah, that's right. They brought back the Planeswalker commanders.
Yes.
Sorry, they brought back Planeswalkers as commanders. Got to be a little more specific on that.
Yeah, so this set was notable mostly because of that, because they went back to the Planeswalkers, which people didn't think they were going to do. But this time, instead of being monocolored, they're all multicolored commanders.
And one is inferior, as it has one less color.
Yeah.
All right, so before we start here, obviously we are doing this from a socially appropriate distance during COVID-19, which means it's extra important. Miles. Yeah, which means it's extra important that you guys hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Obviously, we're doing everything via the internet these days, so any like, comment, share is appreciated, and we just love talking to the community. You know, this is like our one way to get a community together, so hit us up and we'll have a bit of a discourse, as it were.
Remember to wash your hands and wash your ass.
Which order do they do that in, though?
Go
whatever
ass. No, go hands, ass, hands.
Okay, correct. Ooh. I'm glad that you went back to the hands again.
Hands, ass, done.
Yeah.
So just like the other episodes, we're going to be going through all the different commanders, alternate commanders, talk about all the different cycles we have. We're going to deep dive into Planeswalkers and how we feel about them. And then we're going to have some notable reprints, notable new cards, some cards that maybe shouldn't have been reprinted, or cards that you should definitely pick up as singles. And then we're just going to rate this whole set and see if we like it or not.
We're not going to go super in-depth on all of the cards. There's some cards that we think are more important to talk about, obviously like the commanders and alternate commanders, things like that. But for the majority of the cards, we're going to kind of do just a brief description like we did on the previous episode, just so that way we don't take up 2 hours of your time.
Yeah. Although we could talk,
especially
talk.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want us to, like, we could
older.
definitely do like 4-hour episodes for you. Like, if you're looking to kill time just listening to us talk, we got you.
Listen to us bitch about commander sets that didn't live up to the hype.
All right, so I guess before we get into that, let's just quickly go over what beers everyone is drinking. So I set you guys both up with some pretty decent ones, and Cory has assured me that the one that I have is decent as well. Garion, why don't you go ahead and give a quick glance over what you're drinking?
Okay, so I'm drinking the Cigar City Brewing Maduro Brown Ale. It sits at 5.5% ABV and 25 IBUs, and you guys are going to love the one-handed pour. It was hella good.
Oh, yeah.
First time I've had to pour the beers for this show, so
yes.
Be forewarned.
I think that's like...
I had to film and pour, so it was a little weird.
Yeah, because literally every single other time, it's Cory and me doing it, so... All right, first taste, what you got?
Preliminary taste, it's very nutty, like you would expect from a brown ale. It's got some wheat malt kind of characteristics, more malty, I think. To me, it's got like that dry almond kind of flavor, and I'm digging it. It's got a healthy little head.
All right, Cory.
I'm drinking the Melvin Brewing Mind Bloom. It's part of their experimental series, and it's an IPA. And
what a fucking can.
The can is awesome. Super dope. You should look up. I don't know. I assume we're going to have an image of it. But it's 10 out.
Hopefully Garion did a pour of that as well.
I did.
They're 7%, and for some weird reason, they didn't list IBUs, even though it's an IPA.
Because it's a hazy. Like, it's hard to get IBUs on those.
So I got it in my Stein right here. The head is fucking dope as hell. It smells so good.
You look like a goddamn Viking or some shit, just grabbing it.
I need Drew's hair for that.
Seriously. I think Drew was a pirate in a past life.
100%. So right away, you get a lot of just citrus notes that you'd expect in a hazy, and it's super bitter. Like, the hops come through a ton, but it's not like an overpowering bitter. It's just sort of that lingering bitter. It's really good, really refreshing. Just what I needed right now.
And last and maybe least, I don't know. We're going to evaluate that.
This is a curveball on what we usually drink.
Yeah, we've got the Samuel Adams Cold Snap White Ale. So originally, I wanted to have us be doing Wasatch's Winter Ale, but turns out that the availability on that one is few and far between this time of year. But, we make do with what works, and I guess throw out the shout out now to my brother, Travis. We've had him on the show before. He's actually the one that provided the Cold Snaps and the Melvin Mind Blooms. So, thank you, Trav.
Travis, you're the man?
Yeah, he hoards just as much as we do.
Yeah. But he moved to a place that doesn't allow him to have alcohol, so he had to get rid of it. And I said, well, there happen to be 3 of those and 3 of those, so let's go.
I know some people who like some alcohol.
Okay. Cold Snap, better than I thought it was going to be. It is a white ale, so it's a lot lighter. Primarily a malt flavor that you get off of it, light bitterness at the end. We'll kind of go into more flavors later on, but we want to make sure that you guys, if you are drinking along with us, especially now of all times in the world of Corona, that you're being responsible, being safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink if you're underage. Stay at home and enjoy a nice cold one.
All right, so let's dive into these goddamn decks. They're special because they've got some Planeswalkers at the forefront, but there's another set that had that as well. So let's talk about 2014 real quick and figure out why this is different.
Well, first, we had 5 monocolored decks in 2014, and that was really pretty solid because while it was like a mixed bag as far as what the decks had in them, because they were centralized on a color, it all kind of worked together because, that's just the way the game's been designed for the past 25 years.
So these decks hummed a little better than some just because of the innate synergies.
But they also had Planeswalker commanders. Cory, how well did that work in 2014? We kind of talked about it in our episode.
So when these decks came out, Planeswalkers, everyone loved them, and they couldn't get enough of them, and they always wanted them as their commanders, and so WotC printed these, so we got to mess around with them and use them for a while. And I think we go into this a lot further on the C14 episode, but they just kind of slow the game down. Like, they add new mechanics and they're really good, but they have their own problems that they bring to the table. And with this set, I think while they opened it up for the color pairings and stuff like that, they didn't exactly solve those problems.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And kind of just out of curiosity, aside from, the elephant in the room, would you say that those decks and those commanders are still relevant to the modern game?
I think Teferi...
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room, right?
C14 or C18?
Commander 2014.
I think Teferi is still really good because they made him stupid good. And Freyalise, I've seen a lot of people play Freyalise, it's just mono green ramp.
Yeah, I think that's just because that deck is just fun, right?
Yeah, because it's just big stuff. And then Directives comes up every once in a while, but he's usually in the 99. But I've never seen anybody play Nahiri or Obnixilis.
Yeah, I don't know if I have either.
I think the nature of them being slow and not fun to play against and limiting you to one color just kind of limits them in their, not necessarily playability, but the want to play them. Like you said, Directives, he's a great card, but you want to slot him into a 2 or 3 color deck instead of just a red deck. Yeah,
he definitely works as far as like playing him as the commander. I think more so than what Nahiri does, because Nahiri just feels so limited in comparison to everyone else. Like, Directives is just, general artifact good stuff. And to that effect, we actually have artifact good stuff as our first deck from 2018.
Nice.
Yeah, so this one was the blue-red Izzet artifact deck, Exquisite Invention. And this was piloted by Saheeli the Gifted.
Ooh, everybody loves Saheeli.
Saheeli is a fan favorite for sure. She's infamous because of the cat combo.
Everyone loves the copycat combo.
She's a 2 blue and a red for a 4 loyalty counter legendary planeswalker Saheeli. She's got a +1, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. She has got another +1. The next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control as you cast it. And then she's got a -7 for each artifact you control, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. And then all of these, just like the old Planeswalker commanders, have this line of text. This, whatever the card name, can be your commander.
Yeah, so Saheeli has a lot going on there. Servo token generation. Token is a theme in the deck in general. Obviously, if we're talking about the deck, it is artifact tokens and ways to manipulate incremental advantage using those artifacts in one way or another. Not quite like the Brea deck was in 2016, but more of a, let's say, loose aggro strategy, and then just like massive artifact value.
Yeah, you can start cheating out giant artifacts with her +1, with her second +1, because I don't know why they gave her 2 +1s.
Yeah, something that we see time and time again is that having that second plus ability just makes them so much harder to get rid of. But also kind of looking at the next deck, which is Subjective Reality, which is the Esper, white, blue, black. It is a top deck matters and kind of blink. And leading that one, we have Aminatou, the Fate Shifter.
Some intense art. Love this art.
So she's white, blue, black for Legendary Planeswalker. Aminatou, 3 loyalty when she comes in. +1, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your library. -1, exile another target permanent you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. And -6, choose left or right. Each player gains control of all non-land permanents other than Aminatou the Fate Shifter, controlled by the next player in the chosen direction. And of course, she can be your commander. So, what is the big issue with Aminatou? I don't know if you guys realize that just straight off the gate. Something that we've seen recently with bannings. 3-mana Planeswalkers that start at 3 loyalty are fucking miserable to deal with.
I didn't know that was where you were going. I think right away, she's easily the most interesting commander, and she's also easily the most unfocused out of all of the other commanders in the whole set.
Yeah, she definitely has many things that she can do, but I would argue just, at the beginning here that she's the most powerful of them.
Yeah, because like each of her abilities can take your whole deck in a whole different thing. Like you can either do top deck matters, blinking stuff, or the -6, which really is just a pain in the ass, and I don't know why they made an effect like that.
Because of her -1. You can give other people your shit, and then you just -1, and it returns it under your control for permanents you own, not permanents you control. So you get the advantage from her ultimate.
Okay, I see that. I guess
as long as you could tick her up enough to keep her around.
And every Aminatou I've played with never use the -6, even when they're at like 10, 12 counters. Like they just don't.
Yeah, it's not worth. Yeah, it's not worth it because all of her other shit is just super good. What about the next deck?
We've got Nature's Vengeance, headed up by Lord Windgrace. He's 2 black, red, green for a 5 loyalty legendary planeswalker, Windgrace. His +2 is discard a card, then draw a card. If a land card is discarded this way, draw an additional card. -3, return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And -11, destroy up to 6 target non-land permanents, then create 6 2/2 green cat warrior creature tokens with Forest Walk. He was one of the first really apparent lands matter cards.
Yeah, I think he's the first Jund one, which kind of brought all the land matter cards together. Even if Lord Windgrace isn't the best lands matter
commander, it gives you the shell to play in.
Yeah.
You want to do your story time?
Yeah, sure. So just like a little backstory on Lord Windgrace. He was one of the original 9 Titans that was recruited for the war against the Phyrexians. So the 9 Titans also included like Freyalise, I think Teferi was among them. Like these big bad motherfuckers from old school. And like Planeswalkers, the old school Planeswalkers, were basically like these immortal demigods that could do whatever the fuck they wanted. They had just like massive amounts of power. And if you like know about the Gatewatch saga, the whole reason why Liliana's doing the shit that she's doing is because she wants to maintain the power level that the old Planeswalkers had. So like when they fixed all of the timers and all of the jank that happened on Dominaria, Planeswalkers kind of lost the power that they used to have. And Lord Windgrace was one of the big bads. Like he was a bad motherfucker. Samuel Jackson would love to play him in a Magic movie, I think.
This next one seems like a Drew deck.
Yeah, Drew, you want to read this one?
Sure. So we've got Estrad the Masked. So, funnily enough, of all of the commanders in the deck for the adaptive enchantments, which is the Bant enchantments, blue, white, and green, she's one I've played least, just because she's annoying. So
it's because she's bald, huh?
What? It's because she's a planeswalker.
It's bald, folks.
You don't know. Yeah,
yeah
exactly.
She's a planeswalker.
So one in Bant for the legendary planeswalker comes with 3 loyalty plus 2. Untap each enchanted permanent you control. -1,
Okay.
create a white aura enchantment token named Mask attached to another target permanent. The token has enchant permanent and totem armor. And -7, put the top 7 cards of your library into your graveyard. Return all non-aura enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then do the same for aura cards. And of course, she can be your commander. So, very, very powerful abilities.
Yeah.
Having the ability to untap each enchanted permanent you control is insane when she is actually dumping out auras to enchant your permanents. Like, that's ludicrous when you look at it, because they can literally enchant lands, giving you the ramp. It can enchant artifacts, whatever you want, whatever you need. She's got you. And then her -7.
And then her -7 is just a flood the board, you're probably going to lose soon kind of ability.
Yeah, like, I think she's the one of these that you are actually working towards the ult with.
Yeah.
I don't think the other ones you really care that much, like Saheeli kind of, but not really still. But Estrid is 100% like, I want to use the ult if I'm playing her.
Yeah, I think it's because usually with effects like these, it's if you put the top 7 cards, you only get those 7 cards or whatever.
Yeah, but this is
you can load your graveyard up and then just get everything back.
Yeah, what's nice about Estrid is that one of the things that enchantments is weak to is enchantment board wipes. I've talked about it time and time again how I hate certain cards because they just absolutely hose your enchantment strategies. Estrid has a built-in way to recover from that, and that's gross, honestly.
Yeah, and just like cheat him into play, like, whew,
yeah,
spicy.
All right, let's look at some alternative commanders here for the alternate artificers. First one is Brutaclad, Telcor Engineer.
This one is for a blue and a red for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature artificer. Creature tokens you control have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 bloomer artifact creature token. Then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. So it's obviously only cares about tokens, but interestingly,
it only says it like what, 4 times?
It doesn't necessarily care about creature tokens. It just says choose a token you control. So there's a lot of copy effects in red and blue, so you can abuse the hell out of this. And he's just a really, really fun commander to build around because you want to be artifact central, but there's a lot of cards that make things into artifacts. And so you just have to jump through a couple hoops, but you can get some stupid board states with this guy.
Yeah, it's the only downside on Brutaclad, honestly, is the fact that it costs 6 mana.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to use Brutaclad as your commander because you're just not getting the value that you need to, maintain a board state early on.
Yeah, the next one we've got is Tahno, Urza's Apprentice, and we've got some CMC I'm a fan of. It's blue and a red for a 1/3 legendary creature human artificer with haste. For a blue and a red and a tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Wow.
Yeah, this one's, I think, specifically for what we were just talking about with Brutaclad, I think this one is so much better because it comes down so early and starts doubling your activations. That's a really good build.
Yeah, kind of just like wrote a note on this one. It's just like, after all, what's better than 1, activation of your artifacts? 2. But if you work in some untapped tomfoolery, you've got an engine. So long as you can make enough mana to support it. But where would you get so much mana in a blue-red artifact deck?
I don't know. Those just aren't very good colors, especially not to tutor up your dramatic reversal scepter combo and then activate it twice every turn.
Twice? You're thinking small, my friend.
I mean, realistically, you only need to do it maybe once.
Yeah, as soon as you get the combo. But it's just Tahno's, the fact that you still have access to blue and red is just ludicrous, honestly. The untap is just the start, honestly.
Yeah, he's a very, very powerful commander, but he's sort of limited because he can only target artifacts, so that hampers him a lot because he's not Rings of Brighthearth or Stranic Resonator, thank God.
But what if
If he was on that level, then he'd be too good.
Yeah, but what if you could make copies of your good stuff and turn them into artifacts?
Then you'd be chilling.
Yeah. So the next one we have is the Esper deck. First one on our list here is Varina, Lich Queen. So kind of an interesting route that they went in this deck with Varina. So it's 1 in Esper for a 4/4 legendary creature. Zombie Wizard. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, you gain that much life. Activated ability 2, and exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. So, does not fit at all on any level with any of the shit that Aminatou wants to do.
No.
Just a fucking whirlwind of a card as far as abilities. This one is kind of like, the first time I read it, I was just like, yes, Esper Zombies. Everyone wanted that, right? Start the auction at 1, going once, going twice. Hey, we have tokens too. Anyone want to bid on the tokens? Tokens? No? We have different decks that do that shit already. Great. And you're going to exile my graveyard, and Zombies is a deck that cares very much about its graveyard. Like, it's recursive, and it is a creature strategy usually. So exiling that, I don't know, it just seems like it's very counterintuitive to what most zombies want to be doing. Obviously, it has a lot of potential just to, like, spit out a bunch of zombies, attack, draw a shitload of cards, churn through your deck as fast as you possibly can. And that can be scary in the right hands, but realistically speaking, I feel like she's underwhelming on all fronts.
I think I've never seen anyone make a Varina deck, so I don't know really how they play it. I just think that the most interesting about it is usually with these effects, especially in zombie decks, you lose life for each attacking creature or drawing cards or discarding stuff like that. But she actually lets you gain the life. So I always thought that was really cool. But yeah, I think her second ability of exiling stuff from your graveyard is the exact opposite thing of what you want to do.
Yeah, you're in a zombies deck. The whole point of zombies is to bring shit back from the graveyard over and over again, get that recursive value, and she just starts throwing it away. And yeah, you know, like you're not getting like sorceries, instants, and shit usually, but why would you throw that resource away?
Maybe because it's Esper, they're expecting you to have more sorceries and instants, but then it just kind of goes against
what she cares about want to be doing. Combat and shit.
Yeah.
Speaking about caring about combat, we've got Yannette, Cryptic Sovereign.
This is a cool one. So she's 2 and Esper for a 3/5 legendary creature Sphinx with Flying, Vigilance, Menace. And then whenever Yannette, Cryptic Sovereign attacks, reveal a top card of your library. If that card's converted mana cost is odd, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, draw a card.
Damn.
So she's just odd tribal. It's super cool, super flavorful. She's a very, very powerful deck because a lot of the extra turn spells and nasty things are odd.
Yeah, I just made like a quick list of things that I could think of that were odd. Shieldred, Elesh Norn, Emrakul, Blatant Thievery, Nexus of Fate, Mind's Dilation, Expropriate, Rise of the Dark Realms, Blightsteel Colossus, and Karn, the OG Planeswalker Karn.
I think...
And Sol Ring.
Sol Ring, of course. I think another notable one that cares about odd tribal is Void Winnower.
Yeah.
Which means that your opponents can't even cast even spells, and it just sort of locks half of their deck out.
Yeah. Yeah, that one I looked at and I was just like, I forgot that one was odd because it cares about even stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a really cool commander. She's kind of, I don't know, there's not really a whole lot of interesting ways to build her because it is just, I'm going to just get the best spells that have odd casting costs and then cheat them out.
Yeah, like you don't, it's really hard to build the deck too because you want to go for these like ridiculously expensive odd cards. And so like if you get them in your hand, you're like, well, shit, I need a way to put them back in my library.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next deck we have is the Jund Lands deck. First card here. Gary, you want to throw that one down for us?
Yeah, we've got Girus, Waker of Corpses. It's X black, red, green for a 0/0 legendary creature Hydra. Girus, Waker of Corpses enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. Whenever Girus attacks, you may exile target creature card with lesser power from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card and that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at the end of combat. First up, I like that his +1/+1 counters are equal to the CMC.
Yeah.
So this scales not only with your X, like a lot of X spells would, but also with the Jund mana you have to play on it and commander tax. So you're always going to get some accrued value. That's cool.
Jairus, however his name is arguably one of the best commanders when it comes to like having to replay it. I also think it's fantastic that this is one of the most Jund commanders. And like, what I mean by that is that like it cares about ramp, big power. You got your green. You got your graveyard manipulation. You've got tokens, combat, like all of these things that are like green, black, red, just
haste
thrown in together. It's a very, very well built commander. I think that
it kind of feels a little bit like Geared to me.
From
just attacking and making stuff.
Yeah, just pumping out new fatties and stuff. That's cool.
My biggest problem with him is that he exiles whatever you want to make a copy of, and so you only get to use it once. And in Commander,
it's like you better make it count.
Like using a card twice is really good, but I think his like abusability goes down a lot unless you're just loading your graveyard up. And you can basically only do it once a turn, so he just seems really, really slow.
Yeah, there's some pretty obvious ways to upgrade the deck, which I think Cory can talk about later. Instead, right now, I'd like you to talk about Thantis, the Warweaver.
So,
least favorite commander spider.
Yeah, so I think everyone shits on this spider a lot, but I actually really like it just because of one line of text. But Thantis,
I know which one,
is 3 in Jund for a 5/5 legendary creature spider with vigilance and reach.
That's not the line.
No, it's this one. When all creatures attack each combat if able. And then whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Thantis, the Warweaver.
Which is just a throwaway ability in my opinion. But Thantis blocks all day, every day with vigilance and reach. So not too bad.
She's the ultimate blocker, and then she just gets the whole board moving. And people just don't want to attack you, so she's kind of pillow 40 because they'll swing into just a bigger and bigger Thantis. But I think she's a really cool Jund, like aggro commander. I think she's a giant disappointment as a legendary spider because people wanted Spider Tribal, and they've been trying to make Spider Tribal, but this is not Spider Tribal in any way, shape, or form. This is just combat tribal, really.
Yeah. She feels very like Rhino or Ogre, like Mythos kind of thing, like where it's just like, let's attack, let's fuck shit up, or Minotaur.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she'd be a really good Minotaur commander, even though she doesn't help Minotaurs, but it'd be more in flavor than a spider.
Yeah. So our last deck is the Bant deck. What are our alternate commanders there?
First one we have is Kestia, the Cultivator. I really like the design on this card.
Yeah.
So for 1 in Bant, she's a 4/4 legendary enchantment creature, Nymph. She has Bestow for 3 in Bant. And if you don't know what Bestow is, it's if you cast this card for its Bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. Enchanted creature gets +4/+4 if you cast it for its Bestow cost. And whenever an enchanted creature or enchantment creature you control attacks, draw a card. Attack triggers are super, super easy to farm, especially in a deck like this where it cares about enchanted creatures, which Astrid is going to put enchantments on things anyways. And then it cares about enchantment creatures, which a lot of the creatures that you're going to be wanting to put in this deck anyways are already going to be enchantment creatures. The next one is Tuvasa, the Sunlit. In my opinion, the better of the commanders for this deck. And it is just green, white, blue, just Bant. For a 1/1 legendary creature, Merfolk Shaman, Tuvasa the Sunlit gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. And whenever you cast your first enchantment spell each turn, draw a card.
Yes.
Spoilers, you play enchantments in this deck. Getting that first trigger is super, super easy, which means that you're basically drawing 2 cards every single turn. That in and of itself is very powerful. When it comes to this, the obvious is just, Enchantress. It's like, you like enchantments and drawing cards? Let's just throw it all together. You also like Voltron ideas. Great. You just suit up Tuvasa or anyone else, and Tuvasa is going to get bigger as well.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you can go in the Voltron route, or you can literally just not play Voltron or auras or anything, and she'll still get bigger, and you'll still keep drawing cards. So, I think right away people are like, oh, she's just the Voltron commander. But I actually think that Kestia would be the more Voltron because she can bestow stuff and stuff like that. While Tuvasa is just like Bant enchantment, good stuff. Like you're always getting value, always drawing cards, always getting big creatures.
Yeah. See, I would disagree that Kestia is the better Voltron commander because Kestia really wants you to go wide to get as much card draw as you can off of the attack triggers, because it cares more about individual creatures attacking rather than one enchanted creature attacking.
I thought it was just when one creature attacks.
Whenever a enchanted or enchantment creature.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
That's why Kestia is really easy to just farm card draw off of.
Yeah, that's pretty
Kestia's pretty solid.
The next thing we're going to talk about after these alternate commanders is the cycles from these decks. And the first cycle we've got are the Planeswalker named cycles. So we've got Saheeli's Directive, Aminatu's Augury, Windgrace's Judgment, and Estrid's Invocation. So these are almost like extra spells that your Planeswalker's casting.
Yeah. What's funny is that I think Saheeli's Directive is just the worst of them by far. If I'm remembering correctly.
So Saheeli's Directive is X, red, for a sorcery with Improvise. So you can each artifact you tapped after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1 generic mana. Reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of artifact cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into your graveyard. So it gets better and better the more mana you put into it, but it's really, really hard because unless you're improvising a lot, which I think you have to, paying like 4 mana or something into this won't get you anything. Well, you have to put like 10 mana minimum to even churn through your
Especially
deck.
Since like the big build around for this deck is to use a bunch of shitty little Thopter tokens or, different artifact creature tokens in order to ramp you into bigger artifact creatures. And so the chances of if you're not able to pull a high X value from this, the chances of you drawing 2 or 3 cards and them being decently big are kind of high. You might run into some big fat Eldrazi or something like that and just not get anything.
Yeah, and then you could run into just dead cards. So
next one we have is
it's the worst one.
Yeah, next one we have is Aminatu's Augury. And this one, the potential is real on this one. Gary, why don't you go ahead?
So we've got 6 blue for a sorcery. Exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a card of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost.
Now this is what we're talking about.
So it's a high cost. You got 8 mana, but the potential upside is
ridiculous there. Like, Aminatu's Augury is... I mean, it is very reminiscent of, like, Mizzix's Mastery to me.
Yeah.
Like, that high cost that you're putting in up front for just an absolute beating on the back end once everything, resolves for it.
Yeah, because it's...
Plus the artwork's dope.
It's until end of turn. The more Seb McKinnon, man. But I think... Because this gets you 8 potential cards for 8 mana. While if you just look at Saheeli's Directive, in order to get 8 cards, you potentially need 11 mana.
Right? Yeah. Or, Improvise, right? Helps you a bit.
Improvise is the only redeeming thing on Saheeli's Directive. I've seen Aminatu's Augury just destroy whole games, while I've never seen Saheeli's Directive even go off. The
thing is that, like, with Saheeli's Directive, you're investing a lot of, like, kind of small artifacts that are more for, like, progressing your game state individually, like mana rocks and stuff like that you will hit those and you're like, yay, I have more mana now.
Yeah, I've seen Aminatu's Augury in a Golos deck is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen, because you're already cheating big mana costs. It's no fun.
That one's kind of insane. Next we have is Windgrace's Judgment. This card is very, very good. So for 3 black-green for an instant for any number of opponents to destroy target non-land permanent that player controls.
Yeah, I think if you just look at this as 3 Beast Withins, which would be 9 mana, right? This is only 5 mana. And you can destroy 3 of the biggest threats. I think it's a very, very fair card, and a lot more people should be playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be expensive shit, but it's come down a lot.
Yeah, this is one of the chase cards in C18, which I guess goes to show you how this set was.
Which, but this card is very good. I think that it works exactly how you want it, literally every single time. Whereas there's other cards, whether it's Wrath or like Beast Within effects, that you have to be very a lot more selective with what you're able to destroy. And so as soon as you see non-land permanent, like, you just open the gate and you say, pew, pew, pew. That's it.
Yeah, this will save your ass a lot of times.
Cory, you and I have talked about the next one a fair bit. When it first came out, this is like one of the ones that you and I were talking about.
Yeah, this card...
Because of just like the...
I think this card is a really, really, really powerful card. It's Estrid's Invocation. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. You may have Estrid's Invocation enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment you control, except it gains at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile this enchantment. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So you basically get 2 for 1 on your best enchantment.
For 3 mana.
For 3 mana. And it can change. Like, a lot of these cards, when they come in, they're just stuck. Like, whatever you
Yeah, they copy
them,
the one thing, and that's just it.
They're the best thing that you have at that moment. While this can scale every turn. If you play another thing, you can get 2 of them.
Yeah, it's the best thing that you have always.
Just imagine you have a doubling season out, and you have this out. And now you have 2 doubling seasons out.
Or you had, like, I don't know, what is the... Not high market.
Black market?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, imagine you have black market, you copy it, and then a couple turns later you play doubling season. You're like, well, black market, you're doing great, and I got the counters on it and everything like that. I invested the resources. Now I want that doubling season. So now you got 2 doubling season.
Yeah, I think just the versatility of this card is insane, especially because it's only 3 mana, so it comes down early, it already gets the ball rolling, and then late game when you get better stuff, you can just have it become the better stuff.
Yeah, and when there are a lot of enchantment creatures rolling around, it can also just be a creature in a pinch if you need it, which is ridiculous. Plus, there's this crazy keyword called Constellation that cares about enchantments entering the battlefield every turn. Even if you're just recopying the same thing over and over again, you're getting Constellation triggers, which I don't think I can stress how powerful that mechanic is when it's free.
Yeah, it's...
quite good.
Yeah, I think this is... I think it goes in a lot more decks than it should be ran, and I'm actually okay with people not playing this card as much because I hate it.
I put it in decks that it doesn't belong in. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's super good. Like, you'll always get something to copy.
All right, guys. The next cycle we've got are the mixed legends. So we've got Var Child, Betrayer of Keldor, Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, Zancha, Sleeper Agent, and my boy, Arixmethes, the Slumbering Isle. First one we've got is Var Child, Betrayer of Keldor, 2 and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human knight. Whenever Var Child, Betrayer of Keldor, deals combat damage to a player, that player creates that many 1/1 red survivor creature tokens. Survivors your opponents control can't block, and they can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. When Var Child leaves the battlefield, gain control of all survivors. What a weird fucking card, you guys.
Yeah, so this is actually a card that was alluded to forever ago. I think it was Ice Age, because there's one card that makes survivor tokens, and it's a cumulative upkeep, and so it keeps making survivor tokens, but the problem is it puts survivor tokens on your opponent's field. So that card was just a weird old ass card that nobody ever played, and this is actually like some lore tying into that actually also gets way better if you play that old ass card.
Yeah, but it's a weird card. Like, it doesn't belong in basically any deck ever.
No, we're coming into the just a stream of cards where they're just kind of like one-off. They seem like throwaway cards because a lot of them aren't very interesting build-arounds, or they're really hard to build around. And obviously there's some notable exceptions, but a lot of this cycle, they're kind of, in my opinion, just sort of filler cards for this commander set.
And they actually take out card slots because there are other cards that interact with these cards. Specifically the next one, Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow. So the summary of this card is that she's ninjutsu that causes reverse Bob. So Bob is Dark Confidant. So that's like the colloquial name for Dark Confidant, where at the beginning of your turn, you get the card from the top of your deck and you lose life equal to that card's converted mana cost. Yuriko has, whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So that's the reverse Bob effect. But she also has Commander Ninjutsu for blue and black. So if one of your creatures is unblocked, Yuriko comes in and just pokes him for 1, and also gets you that reverse Bob effect.
Yeah, I hate playing against Yuriko decks because of Commander Ninjutsu, because you can't, like, killing her doesn't do anything because she'll always come back for just 2 mana, and they always stack the deck with extra turn spells and Eldrazi, so you're taking 10 damage at any time they attack.
And also just a ridiculous amount of
and it's whenever a ninja you controls deals damage, so if they have cards that change creature type, like Conspiracy and stuff, anytime something does damage, they're flipping over 5 cards and you're taking 25 damage easy.
Yeah, Yuriko used to be kind of hard to evaluate, but she just started getting better and better.
Yeah.
Especially with Modern Horizons. Especially with Modern Horizons coming out. There's a couple ninjas in the deck, I think maybe 2 other ones that are literally just tied in with Yuriko. They're not great in conjunction with the rest of the commanders, but because Yuriko does care about what's on top of your deck, Amanatu does play into that effect.
Yeah.
And so it's not like she's really like a wasted slot because there is that effect, but it's just, I don't know, man. Ninjas is not what I'm thinking when I'm playing a top deck manipulation.
Weird. So the next one we have is Xantcha Sleeper Agent. She's a black and a red for a 5/5 legendary creature minion. As Xantcha Sleeper Agent enters the battlefield, an opponent of your choice gains control of it. Xantcha attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner or planeswalker its owner's controls. And then anybody can pay 3. Xantcha's controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability. So she comes in for cheap. She's a big girl. She starts swinging, but interestingly, she comes in on somebody else's field and starts just attacking everybody else. And then whoever has Xantcha just kind of becomes an incidental target because people will pay the mana to draw cards, which hurts the person that's swinging with Xantcha, and it's a very, very political card.
All right, Garion, you say your boy. I don't know how much we've talked about Erixmus Thieves on the show, but this seems to be one of your favorite cards at the moment.
He's just so dope. I like first and foremost that he's a Kraken. Mostly just because I'm that type of guy. I'm a seafaring pirate type of guy. But no, what really, really attracted me to Erixmathy's Slumbering Isle is he is 2 green, blue for a 12/12 legendary creature Kraken. So he's one of those Thing in the Ice type cards, very, very undercosted, but with the stipulation that he enters the battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. And it says, as long as Erixmathy's has a slumber counter on it, it's a land.
But wait, there's more.
But wait. Whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Erixmathy's, and you can tap him to add a green and a blue. So he's a double mana land, so he's getting you 2 mana. He's in the nice, sweet spot of colors where you're just slanging spells and ramping out big fatties. I think he's just real cool. He's also in those colors where you're doing tappy, untappy type of things and creating mana. I really like this guy.
So the net cost on Erixmathy's, because he comes down and is immediately a land that you can tap for 2 colors, is potentially, if you can untap him, of course, like net cost of 2 colorless mana.
Right.
For a 12/12.
Well, I mean, the 12/12 is whatever.
12/12 land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a 12/12 that's pretty hard to interact with for a while. Like I think my favorite thing that I've seen with the Erixmathy's is somebody played him. He was a land. Somebody went to untap them. And for whatever reason, somebody had instant speed land removal and just fucking destroyed it. I was like, dude, I fucking died. I was laughing so hard at that one. I was just like, damn, that's so savage. All right, so the next cycle we have is the Commander Storm cycle. So each of these has the storm, quote-unquote storm effect that cares about how many times you've cast your commander in the game. Spoiler alert.
Garbage.
They're rough to play around because you don't want to cast your commander a bunch of times to get this effect. So first one is Imperial Storm. It gets the Angels, which is cool,
Yay.
right? 4/4 Angel for 6 mana seems like a lot. 2 of them for 6 mana is decent. 3 is probably about where you want to be. I think on all of these, you want at least 3.
Yeah, which...
Like, do you want to cast your mana?
Casting your commander is probably going to be between 8 and 12 mana if you have a reasonably costed commander.
Yeah, like it's so much. And then you also have to have your commander get removed, which you're playing commander. You're building your deck around your commander. This is not what you want. I hate this cycle.
Yeah, and there might be times when you get this card before you even cast your commander once, and so it's just a dead card. So the next one we have is Echo Storm, which has the same clause where it counts the number of times you cast your commander, and then it just says create a token that's a copy of target artifact. Potentially powerful, but potentially does nothing.
For like 5 mana, not great. Next one is Skullstorm. It's the black one. It was in the Esper deck.
This one is too high costed, but it's the only one that's got a cool effect so far. 7 black for a sorcery. When you cast a spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Each opponent who can't loses half their life rounded up.
So the next one is Fury Storm, 2 red, and it is an instant, which is dope. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. 4 mana for a fork-like effect is fine. Copying it would be great, assuming that you're able to do so. I think this one, reasonably speaking, for 4 mana, getting 2 copies of this one, just casting your commander once, is all right. I think that you want to get more out of it, obviously, like the rest of them. But for 4 mana, you're probably pretty happy with like forking twice.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most playable ones, just because it's an
I think it is the most playable one
because you can use it on other people's stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the last one is Genesis Storm.
This one's 4 green for sorcery. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent card. You may put that card onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I think this one could be really good, but for 6 mana, again, the stipulation. The first time,
yeah.
The next ones up we've got are the Loyal Lieutenants. We've got Loyal Unicorn, Loyal Drake, Loyal Subordinate, Loyal Apprentice, and Loyal Guardian.
Yeah, so they all have the Lieutenant ability, which just cares about having your commander out. Then each one of them has a specific effect for you. So Unicorn, if you have your commander out, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control this turn, and other creatures you control gain vigilance until end of turn. Honestly, pretty solid effect. The Loyal Drake, less so. Pretty sure the Loyal Drake is just, if you control your commander at the beginning of your combat step, draw a card.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reads.
Loyal Subordinate, again, lackluster at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you control your commander, each opponent loses 3 life. Granted, for 3 mana, it's fine, but it's also a 3/1, which sucks.
Yeah.
I think that's like the worst power toughness that you can have. Loyal Apprentice is the red one. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 color Thopter creature, artifact, token, with flying, and that one also gains haste. So like free artifact generation, you don't have to attack with it. You just get it on your beginning of combat. That's all right. And then Loyal Guardian. This one can also be super, super powerful. It is 5 mana, though, 4 and a green. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
Yep, and you're in green, so you want to abuse counters anyways. So doubling season, boom, you're chilling.
I mean, you don't even have doubling season.
Yeah.
So that's the last of the true cycles that we have. We've also got the super cycle that we've been talking about through the Commander series. This one is Magus of the Balance. So it's the creature version of Balance, which is notably a banned card in Commander. So if you're not familiar with Balance, Magus of the Balance is 1 and a white for creature human wizard. It's a 2/2 and has the activate ability for 4 and a white. Tap, sacrifice Magus of the Balance. Each player chooses a number of lands they control equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest, then sacrifices the rest. Players discard cards and sacrifices creatures the same way. So cheap to throw down, higher mana cost to actually activate to get that ability. It's kind of how they made Balance more fair in Commander, but this card is a backbreaker.
I love how Balance is just, it's good based solely on the assumption that the person playing the white deck is always going to be the shittiest player.
Yeah, this is...
and have the
that's the reason why it's in, why Balance was made as a white card.
Yeah, the only way to help white is to make everything else suck.
All right, so that's it for the cycles here. There's not really a boogeyman of this cycle that people are chasing after. So let's actually get into the beer reviews. I think I'm just going to start it off here with the Samuel Adams Cold Snap. It is a white ale with spices, and it tastes like a light, malty, slightly bitter beer with spices. Which ones I couldn't really name. Probably some nutmeg, cardamom, maybe like a little cinnamon. It's a winter ale. It's fine. It's not at all what I would ever want on a winter's day. So I don't know why it's a winter beer. Maybe like more like a Thanksgiving. Not so much like winter. I want some darker shit for that.
Yeah, it's not super pumpkin spicy, holiday spicy to me. Like when I first drank it, I thought it was almost spicy in a way. And then when I looked up the description online, it showed that there's like white peppercorns. And so there's like sort of an array of spices that are more like in line with maybe hearty spices. But there's definitely that kind of classic, malt and sugary spiced stuff. There's probably cinnamon and shit like that in there too. To me, it was just clean. It was just real clean.
It's super simple. Cory, what was your take on it?
I thought it was super, super sweet, and I really liked it. But like both of you guys said, it was really crisp and smooth, and it was a lot more malty than I thought it was going to be. I didn't get like any spice characteristics, so maybe my palate was just fucked. But I was
maybe
kind of hoping that there was going to be some holiday spice characteristics, but I really didn't get any of that. So it was just a really, really good, solid malty beer for me, and I really liked it.
Garion, I do want to talk about the Cigar City Maduro next, if you would.
Real quick, I want to talk about the can. It literally is decorated like a cigar.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that until I was after I was drinking it.
Also, you should scroll down to the bottom of the page after you do your own description of it.
The bottom of the page?
After you do your description of it. Go ahead and do your description of it.
So, to me, it's just nuts. You know what I mean? And not even just nuts, but like nut husks. Like when you're at your grandma's house and she's got a nutcracker and a bag of mixed nuts. You know what I mean? Like there's that aftertaste that you get after eating multiple different kinds of nuts. It's just dry and malty and nutty. And to be honest, it's not like a refreshing beer in the way that most beers are, but it's super good. But it has a weird lingering aftertaste. It doesn't taste bitter. It doesn't taste malty. It just is like dry.
Cory, what about you? What was your take on it?
So I didn't really get a lot of nuttiness. I got a lot of coffee notes and chocolate notes. And
whoa,
it was very, very malt forward, which I really liked.
I agree with that.
It was super smooth. I got some notes of alcohol throughout it, but it was just sort of very, very on the back end. But overall, it was just a really smooth, dark, chocolatey, sort of malty, bitter kind of beer.
Yeah. Mine, I just said smell, malt extract, sweet, slightly alcoholic, kind of earthy. First taste was malty and chocolatey. Then again, that kind of earthy bitterness. That's kind of what Cory's talking about there. It kind of had that sweet cigar taste. Like if you have experience with cigars, there's some of them that are just a bit sweeter that kind of like linger on the tongue. That's kind of what it tasted like to me. But when I came back to it later on, after like 20 minutes or so, just kind of hanging out, the chocolate notes kind of went away, and it was mostly just like that malt extract sweetness. All right, Cory, we've got quite the treat there for you with the Melvin Mind Bloom. What you got for us?
So this one right away is one of the better hazy IPAs that I've had. It's right away, it's just citrus notes, and then it's just straight into the hops. All the bitterness that they carry with them, which I've definitely grown to love. But if you don't like hops, this is definitely not for you because it's just got that lingering malt or that lingering hop taste that you would expect in an IPA. And it's balanced really well with all the citrus right at the beginning.
See, I find that also really interesting that's like your interpretation of the flavors, because for me, I didn't have that like harsh bitterness. It was very like light, and it wasn't really so much citrusy as it was more like tropical. Like
hell yeah, that's me too.
Yeah, because like when I was tasting it, first off, I like barely cracked the can, and immediately like I was like, oh Lorde, this is gonna be a good one. Like it was just so good, like on point. I was just like, this one is definitely gonna be a winner every damn time. First taste, I was like, this is a summer beer. This is what I want on tap for the summer, all summer long. Like I haven't been super big into IPAs, as we've talked about several times, but like these types of IPAs really get me more into that style of beer.
To me, like same as you, Drew. When I first took my first sip, I was like, there's no hops in this at all. This is super mild. I'm tasting fruit. What is this fruit? And I probably sipped it 4 or 5 times going, I can't pick out the fruit. And then finally it came to me mango. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's what that is. It's mango. And then first of all, it looked like orange juice. It's just a nice, dark kind of orange color. Yeah. It had a big, fat, thick head on it. And I don't know, to me it was like, maybe it was because I just ate or whatever, but to me it was not at all bitter. It was just flavorful and sweet and juicy and fresh. And then it finished up, like after I had been drinking on it for about an hour, then it finished up with some of those hops and that bitter. But it wasn't like so much that it was like, God damn, I can't not taste it, you know?
Yeah, it kind of finished like to me it was like a green mango where it had a little bit of that kind of like vegetal bitterness more than actual hop bitterness. All right, let's finish up this episode. We're just going to talk about the important mentions. Just some general goodies. We've got Forge of Heroes, which is a commander-specific card. There's about the number of times you cast your commander, you get a +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, or an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. Very, very strong.
Watsy, if you're listening, stop doing that. Stop doing the, times you cast your commander. I don't like that.
I think they figured that out.
Yeah. Up next, we've got Geode Golem. It's 5 mana for a 5/3, and he's got Trample. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. Now, see, that's the kind of commander text I'm a big fan of.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Is insane.
That card might be one of the best ones in the set.
And I really like that he's really, really strong, colorless, so he can slot into whatever you're doing, and he's a commander-specific card. So you can drop a big-ass, cheaper bomb like this and not affect all of Magic, just really hone in on those commander decks that need it,
Yeah. Next one I have on our list is Endless Atlas.
So this is the Endless Atlas is a 2-drop artifact with the ability you pay 2 and tap it and draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name.
Of course.
So this was one of their very first steps in helping mono white and mono red card draw because there's not much else.
Yeah. So for the artifacts decks, we have Blasphemous Act, which is one of my favorite board wipes in general. For some reason, I love red board wipes, even though they're generally not great. This one costs like 13 mana, but its cost is reduced for every creature on the battlefield and does 13 damage to everything. So it's relatively cheap for a pretty solid board wipe. Next one we have is Mimic Vat, which is just an artifact staple always.
Yeah, another one we got on this list is Mirror Works. Basically, you can pay 2 anytime a non-token artifact creature enters the battlefield, and if you do, you create a copy of that artifact. So just giving you some ways to double up on your little tokens.
Yeah, and then we've got Retrofitter Foundry, it's a very weird card because it upgrades your tokens over time, and so you sacrifice a token and make a better token. It's kind of really slow and not very good, though.
We've also got Unwinding Clock, which is a solid include.
Yeah, it just basically Seaborn muses your artifacts on other people's turns. And then there's Soul of New Phyrexia, which makes all your permanents indestructible. It's very, very hard to beat.
Yeah, true. We also have Sharding Sphinx, which is just a rough name for a card.
I think it was good back in the day, but nowadays...
Yeah, now, just get it like some Pepto-Bismol or something, So whenever an artifact creature you control does combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue thumb to target artifact creature token with flying. So it's really awesome that it itself is an artifact creature to get the ball rolling. Then you're creating more Thopters that are also attacking, that are doing damage, that duplicate, because it's not non-token artifact creatures, it's just artifact creature tokens. And with that, we also have Coveted Jewel, which to me is... I just said that it's what the Sharding Sphinx left behind, because it's garbage. When Coveted Jewel enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Seems cool. It's also 6 mana, and add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. Solid. And last but not least, or actually absolutely least, whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls attacks you and aren't blocked, that player draws these cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it. So they don't even have to deal damage. They just get the artifact.
Another card I like, not colorless. We talked about it before. If it made the cut, Treasure Nabber, 2 in a red. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until your next turn. So basically, you just turn everybody's mana rocks into your mana rocks.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where somebody has a treasure nabber out and people just don't tap their soul ring. It's like, nah, I'm good. Which
is just about as good, yeah.
Next one we have is Enchanter's Bane. It's 1 in a red for an enchantment.
Fuck this card.
At the beginning of your end step, target enchantment deals damage equal to its converted mana cost to its controller unless that player sacrifices. This is as close as we've gotten to mono red enchantment destruction. And most of the time, it
not quite enchantment destruction, but potentially player destruction of those who control enchantments. Slowly.
Very, very slowly.
This card is very amusing to me in that it is an enchantment in red to fuck on enchantments, but it's treading the holy line that red is not allowed to interact with enchantments.
I respect it, but God, just come on. Because, you play this and then you target somebody's Mystic Study. They're never going to sacrifice it. They'll play 3 life. It will never do anything.
Yeah, you have to put it, not on their most important piece, but just the thing that's going to deal the most damage to them to make them actually have to do something with it. But even then, it's just I guess I'll sacrifice this 8 mana enchantment because I want something that's a bit better anyways.
Yeah, it's not impactful enough, especially because it only does one thing.
Yeah. As per top deck, got some nice mentions here. We've got Mold Drifter,
cutest fish.
Yeah. Isolated Watchtower, I believe the new one. But again, it helps you just manipulate your top deck as a land, which is dope. We've got Duskmantle Seer, which is just Party Bob. Everyone gets to look at the top card. Everyone gets to take damage, then put that card in the hand. Party Bob likes to party. I don't think there's anything more you need to say about that. Cory, you want to just miracles?
So the next cycle we have are Miracles, which in the top deck manipulation deck you'd think would be some of the most powerful cards you could print in that one. But unfortunately, they only printed one new Miracle, and that's Entreat the Dead, which is basically just mass reanimation. Some other notable Miracle cards are Entreat the Angels, which makes angel tokens, Devastation Tide, which is just a board wipe, and then Banishing Stroke, which is just a return to dust.
Then they have a fun one, Primordial Mist. You manifest top card of your library each turn, and that just gives you this 2/2 creature, but it has an activated ability to exile a face-down card you control, and you may cast that card. So basically just gives you an extra card. You're allowed to look at that manifested card anyways, so it just has that really nice extra effect that you get to not waste that card, because manifest normally you're only able to flip up if it's a creature. You pay that creature's just like normal converted mana cost. So I think that Primordial Mist is a dope new card that we really like. We also have Mortuary Mire, which is just another card to help influence your top deck. You can just put I think when it enters the battlefield, you put a creature card on top of your library. And so you care about the top of your library anyways. It's also nice to just give back a creature if you really need it.
Yeah, then we have Night Incarnate, which is 4 and a swamp for a 3/4 death touch. And then it's got Evoke for 3 and a black. And when it leaves the battlefield, all creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn. So it's kind of like a mini board wipe.
Yeah, this one's dope. First Evoke card we've had, first new Evoke card we've had for a while. The next kind of group that we have with the top deck is just the top deck manips, which is the top deck manipulations. So we've got Telling Time, Brainstorm, and then the 3 Ps, we've got Portent, Ponder, and Predict. They all care about top deck, drawing cards, shit like that. And the card that I found was amusing that it's not great in this deck, but it sure is good in other decks. It's Treasure Hunt.
It's 1 and a blue for a sorcerer. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. Then put all cards revealed this way into your hand.
All right, so first one we're actually going to read out here is just Blood Tracker. 3 and a black for creature, vampire, wizard for 2/2. Has flying, black, pay 2 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Blood Tracker. Decent ability in and of itself. And when Blood Tracker leaves the battlefield, draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. So it's that last ability that we really care about. +1/+1 counters are super easy to manipulate. We've talked about dozens of times at this point how you can do that. Having the ability to have a creature like that you cash in later, or an opponent does for you, and you just get a bunch of cards off of it. Super, super good.
Yeah, the next one we have is Crash of Rhino Beetles, which is 4 and a green for a 5/5 creature insect with trample, and it gets a +10/+10 as long as you control 10 or more lands. No big deal. Just
seems decent.
A 15/15 For 5.
Whiptongue Hydra for 5 and a green. It's creature Lizard Hydra, super dope. For 4/4 reach, when it enters the battlefield, destroy all creatures with flying and put a +1/+1 counter on Whiptongue Hydra for each creature destroyed this way. Hydras are good.
Yeah, this is like a weird one-sided anti-flying board wipe.
And the last card we have for the Jund deck here, Cory?
It's Reality Scramble. So it's 2 red for a sorcery. Put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card that shares a card type with that permanent. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. It also has Retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. So you can potentially do this a bunch of times. And this works on tokens. So you just pitch a token, cheat out a Blightsteel Colossus or something stupid. I think it's a really cool card. Doesn't see enough play.
Yeah, next deck here, last deck, is the Bant Enchantments deck. Krufix's Insight, look at the top 6, put up to 3 enchantment cards into your hand. It's only 3 mana, so it's basically 3 mana, draw 3 in the enchantments deck. Herald of the Pantheon reduces the mana cost of your enchantments. Aura Gnarlid. For Voltron decks, you need something to pilot the mech. Aura Gnarlid is one of those creatures for early game. Bruna, Light of Alabaster. When things in the mech need to change, get rid of the little Aura Gnarlid guy and put in Bruna, which enters the battlefield, or attacks. You can just put all of the auras onto her.
Yeah, Bruna's scary.
Creeping Renaissance is dope. It is a board wipe recovery card. 3 green for sorcery, choose a permanent type, return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. It also has flashback for 5 green. So obviously you're choosing enchantments in this deck. That's just how that one's going to go. Heavenly Blade Master is another one that, kind of like Bruna, it is trying to get all of the auras and equipment that you control onto it when it enters the battlefield. And that allows you to, with this case anyways, buff other creatures for each aura and equipment attached to Heavenly Blade Master. Flying and double strike, that's just a good creature to have all of your auras on in the first place. This card is meant to kill people. I think best, but not best, new card that we've got is Octopus Umbra. The Umbra cycle is a lot of good enchantments because they have Totem Armor, which if enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. So Totem Aura, super dope. This one is an enchantment for 3. This one's enchantment for 3 blue. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 8, and has whenever this creature attacks, you may tap target creature with power 8 or less. So one of the issues that people have with Voltron style decks is that you're usually suiting up a small creature, or you have to wait till your commander's out before you start suiting things up. This one gives that base power and toughness boost to the creature instead of just pumping it in general. Ravenous Slime is super dope. It's a Grave Hate card. Now, the Colossus is a constellation that allows you to double power and toughness of whatever target creature you want, which means that anytime you're dumping an enchantment in, you're basically trying to set up a 1-punch, which is super dope. Myth Unbound.
I've been killed by Nihilious Colossus way too many times.
Yeah, it's like 7 mana, but it's worth. Myth Unbound isn't the best because, like we keep saying, we don't want to cast our commander multiple times. But whenever your commander is put into a command zone from anywhere, you get to draw a card, and your commander costs 1 less for each time you've cast it. So basically having your commander tax. Super dope. It's kind of mediocre in general because you don't want that effect to really be impactful. But when it is can be very, very helpful. And we've got the Enchantress cards. Enchantress Presence and Eidolon of Blossoms. Eidolon Blossoms is the Constellation version. Enchantress Present, just whenever you cast an enchantment, you get to draw a card. That's the quick wrap-up of the Bant Enchantments. Deck performances. Have you guys actually played these decks?
Yes, I have. And they are so goddamn slow.
Yeah. Especially if you're using the Planeswalkers. All right, let's talk about the Artifacts decks. Exquisite Invention. Cory.
So this one, it's on the faster side just because it cares about artifacts and cheating costs, so you can get the ball rolling super fast. But it's really hard to recover from a board wipe once you're going because...
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
If all your artifacts are done, then you're kind of done, so you kind of have to rebuild. So it's just artifact problems.
Yeah. What about Subjective Reality, the top deck, Esper deck?
So this...
Do you have any experience with that one?
I've played against this one, and it's scary because you really don't know what they're doing. But the Precon isn't that powerful. Like Amanatu's super dope, but the stock deck they limited the actual going on because it was kind of the most unfocused deck. But
yeah, I will say when you play this deck, you feel powerful because you are like setting up your turns and just like, oh man, this is exactly how I planned it. Like literally last turn, but
yeah,
you know, it is what I wanted to do. The lands deck.
So I've played against souped up Windgrace decks, and they will fuck you up because they run a lot of land destruction because they can easily recover from them, and they run a lot of board wipes, especially the non-land permanent board wipes, because a lot of those, especially the older board wipes, don't target planeswalkers, and so they clear everyone else's boards, but you still have Windgrace to keep you in the loop and keep getting you lands and drawing cards, and so they're pretty disgusting.
Garion, what was your take?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as Amanatu, though. The stock deck isn't awesome. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But it just has that potential to be upgraded and beat face.
Yeah, that's kind of how the Adaptive Enchantments deck is, the Bant enchantment deck list. It's not Enchantress, which is what we want it to be, just because that card draw engine is so real in Enchantress. But it suffers very much from the same flaws as what the Artifact deck does. If you get blown up, you basically sit out the rest of the game.
It's so hard to come back.
You can't recover as well in enchantments, I feel, as you can in artifacts, because artifacts, like, in and of themselves, have like a lot of ramp synergies and stuff like that, whereas the artifacts, like, man, it's rough. I think that the stock deck itself synergizes pretty well, but it's really trying to split the board on what it wants to do. It has some of the Enchantress ideas with way too much Voltron shit that's just, like, very low power.
Yeah.
Let's step back to 2014, and if we can do a quick comparison, these Planeswalkers versus the old Planeswalkers. Are they more powerful, less powerful?
Better.
What do you mean better?
Much better. They got more colors, so you can actually do shit with them, which is important.
Cory?
I think they are better, like Aaron was saying, but I think they're less focused just because in the 2014 decks, they were just sort of, this is what green is going to do. This is the green deck. While if you just look at the Esper deck, like there's wildly different abilities. And I think the Planeswalker commanders, they range from how viable they are, which I think could be a good thing because it allows for different playstyles. But I think the ceiling is a lot higher, but the floor is a lot lower too.
Yeah, I think that they're better as commanders, strictly because they're more colors. I think that they're worse in every other aspect. Like the actual abilities, I guess good old Ob and Nahiri were all right.
They're down there.
But like the other three are like solid, are going to continue to be played. I don't really see much play of these Planeswalkers in the 99, but I see the other Planeswalkers from 2014 in the 99 all the time.
Yeah, I've seen the only deck that I usually see is the Windgrace as the pilot, and then every once in a while an Amanatu pops up in like a 5-color deck just because she's weird and lets you draw cards. But I've never seen an Estrid or a Saheeli.
Yeah, out in the wild, they just don't exist, right?
There's just much better options.
I wanted to give a little note towards the upcoming commander sets because we are almost finished and up to date on these commander sets. We've got a Cory in the works, and as of the recording of this episode, and definitely by the release of this episode, we've got tons of spoilers. So we're going to be getting a Cory to you guys as soon as possible.
Next episode should be
obviously expect us to be caught up by then because we did get that month delay in the release, at least here in the US, for a Cory to be coming out.
All the spoilers will be out. We'll have that episode. Actually, it'll be our next episode. We'll do a Cory. We'll talk about spoilers. Just do like a set review for, I think, just the general set, and then we'll go into more specifics. There's so many legendary creatures to talk about, so we may actually have just an episode on that. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Commander 2020 set, starting with the Ikoria decks, because I guess Commander 2020 just is going to exist throughout the whole year, or however they're going to split that up. So we've got a lot of Ikoria content that we're working on, and so look forward to that next.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been, it's a wild journey for us to go through all these commander decks. We're not quite finished, but we're getting there.
And of course, we do want to make sure you guys check out the survey. It is in the podcast show notes on Untap Upkeep Drink or at UUD Podcast. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Is YouTube a social? I guess.
Oh yeah.
Kind of.
It's a medium.
Yeah. You can make comments.
You can make comments. Very good. All right. So we'll see you guys next time. We're actually going to be talking about Ikoria.
As we like to say on this podcast, you guys,
have fun
and wash your hands and your ass.